It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet. Yes, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric is out sick this morning. He told me he had a temperature. He got the text like about 3:30. And I'm like, that's okay. Don't worry. Everything's cool. Take care of yourself. There's plenty of stuff to talk about. It's not like I'll be at a loss for words. My gosh. Another very, 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 very busy day. Now, I think I mentioned this yesterday. And when you're in this business, you're always on your phone. You're always on your computer. And when you sign in to YouTube and Google and everything else, and I look at YouTube every single day because there's so many audio cuts that you can get from that, and X and everything else, and everything is sort of tied in together. And I think I'd mentioned that yesterday or Friday. I can't remember. And it was regarding something, and I wonder, like when I wake up, if that'll be the first thing on YouTube for me. And it was. I wake up yesterday. Didn't even check my phone. Got up quickly. Well, I'll tell you why I got up quickly and didn't do the normal thing of waking up and staring at my phone, because I had, oh man, I hate them more than anything. I mean, because you just like, it's got to go away. I had a very, very slight ingrown toenail. There is nothing. I sit there going, you see, major disease or ingrown toenail? Well, how bad is the major disease there? It's okay now. I mean, I did everything, but we won't go into the details of, how you've got to, find that little tiny bit. Isn't that amazing? The tiny little insy beansy piece of the toe. It's almost like it hits your sciatic nerve, like you have a sciatic nerve in your foot. It's like, yeah. So I took care of that, but then when I turned on the TV, because that's what I do when I do show prep, and I think Eric and I sort of do the same thing, except Eric puts on his headphones. But I've got the TV on YouTube because there's so many great. One of the things he and I always look at is I think it's the Forbes YouTube page, because they actually cover everything that's going on in Congress, and they have clips and everything else, and you can go through in a day, because it's impossible to actually look at what Congress is doing every day and watch all of it. We don't have the time. We work overnights. But you've got, different, witnesses and Congress people talking, whatever. And so I go to that. Then I'm looking at my phone and going, just going through, doing everything. Once in a while, I even have my laptop on. And so, but I go to YouTube on my, when I finally get everything ready, the ingrown toenail is, from what I know, taken care of, even though the residual pain will last for like 4 or 5 hours. It's like, man, these nerves have memories. So finally, cup of coffee, turn on the TV, go to YouTube, hit YouTube. The first thing that comes up, Escape from Alcatraz. And so instead of doing work, I watched the first 20 minutes of Clint Eastwood in Escape from Alcatraz. Thinking, wow, everything's tied in together somehow. How does this how does this happen? And it's almost, when you do what we do, it's almost impossible, because you sign into everything, and then everything is connected. When I'm here and I sign into YouTube, well, I go home and sign into YouTube. So it's the same. It's the same thing. It's, the memory when you put something into Google. And when you do this, I wish I could just sit at home and not do any of that. But it's like, this is the business we have chosen. So somebody is monitoring my every move. Thank God I have no life and don't do anything and not involved in any type of criminal activity. I'm too busy. But I just thought that was hilarious yesterday when and then I'm looking at that movie, and I don't even know when that movie was done, early 70s? Let me see, what's the construction of Alcatraz? Does it look like, I don't know, it looks pretty old. And so the analysis on that yesterday was it may get done someday, but it's not going to get done in the Trump administration. And one of the reasons is because it's a landmark historical site, and the lawsuits will go on forever. And so I forgot who wrote. They said, so you want to open something that the Ninth Circuit Court of Northern California is over. Good luck with that. But the problem is, I did some research on Alcatraz. The reason that they shut it down was because of the expense of it. It's that simple. It was costing 3 times the amount to run that prison as any other federal prison when it closed, I believe, in 1963. It was open 29 years, and that's why. And I read the headline that said legal experts say Trump can do it. Well, of course he can do it. The federal government can do anything. The federal government can build a prison anywhere. It's, as we said, yes, the first thing I thought of was when Trump said that was, would that be Doge approved? And he made it clear it's for imagery, not for the substance of it. There's closed supermax prisons we could open up. So it didn't seem that, well, I mean, the left might have gone a little, nutso on it, but is that actually going to happen? Probably not. The other thing I found out is I guess there used to be Park Service guides. Now when you go there, I guess there's a, you can wear headphones, and there's basically a tour, an audio tour, but you go through Alcatraz on your own. And then, I think every half hour, a ferry goes back and forth. And I think it takes about 17, 18 minutes to actually get there. But when you think about it, and as I said, you'd have to get a whole, sewage systems aren't connected. Nothing is connected there. Nothing. So they'd have to connect everything up. And it's already from the National Park Service, I think $50 million is what they're spending through 2027 to ensure that it remains a viable tourist area, because everything I have read so far shows that Alcatraz makes a profit. And so will it actually happen? I think I can safely say this, not in my lifetime. And if it doesn't happen in the Trump administration, it's not going to happen. So, but I mean, it's not really a big deal. It's, it's like, whatever. We got a great show. I mean, so much going on. Did you see Did you see Marjorie Taylor Green yesterday backing off? Well, none of this involves Trump. She wrote an X post, and we never got to it yesterday. She wrote an X post on Friday, just blasting the administration, and then comes out yesterday and basically says, well, no, I'm going after Congress, not the president. We agree with the president, yet everything she wrote on Friday disagrees with the president. Congress has nothing to do with what she disagreed with on Friday. And so we'll get to that. She doesn't believe that what we're doing with Iran is right. What the president did with Ukraine is right. So we'll get to all of that coming up here in just a little bit. There's just so much. Oh, man, just so much going on. Trump ends the federal funding of gain of function research, which is good. The Harvard letter from the Department of Education. I love this headline. The Obamas aren't going to rescue the Democrats. I think we've been saying that for a significant period of time. What's going on at this? I don't know why it blew up yesterday, because I think there were a bunch of delays over the weekend at Newark Airport. What has to be done there. The summer flying season is coming up. And I think it was a Wall Street Journal editorial page. By the way, the president has been critical of the Wall Street Journal a lot. And we got, I think, a call last week. Somebody was very critical of the Wall Street Journal. Understand there are two Wall Street Journals. There's the news section of it that's viewed as much more liberal, and there is the editorial page. There was a big to-do a couple of years back when the news department was furious that the editorial page doesn't mirror, their opinions or their slant or whatever. There was a big to-do about it. And as far as I know from what I can read, it still has remained separate. But it's interesting when the president goes after the Wall Street Journal and at times National Review, and he'll call it, the elite conservatives or whatever. Those are the two publications that probably more than any other publications defended the president against lawfare. They were the ones that actually went through point by point by point why it was wrong, what the Democrats were doing to the president. They were two of the publications, their editorial page, and for again, National Review is a little bit different because they have a number of different writers. They hire people and say, go write what you want, which is actually a good thing. So do I always agree with them? No. Do I always agree with the Wall Street Journal? No. But there is an independence with both of them, and both of them have vehemently attacked and were absolute legal defenders of the president and went after the Russia collusion, looked at it and said, we don't see the evidence. So it's interesting, that the president, especially the Wall Street Journal over the last week, has attacked them. They were the biggest defenders of him against lawfare and against Russia collusion that I know out there, that were consistently doing it each and every day. And they would come out and say, look, we don't agree with the president on this, and this. We agree with the president on this. But here's where the Democrats, this is where they're completely out of line. Lawfare cannot happen in this country. Russia collusion was a hoax. A couple of really interesting editorials that were in there today, plus a whole bunch more. I mean, just so much stuff going on. Really is. I'm just going through here. I've got so much. Hang on, because there was something else I wanted to hit here. Oh, yeah, that was it. I knew there was one more thing. Reading this headline, pro-immigration advocates slam Trump's DHS offering of $1,000 in free flights to self-deport. Why? Now, that would be DOJ approved. Instead of $14,000, I think the cost is like $3,000. So to go through the other process would be $14,000. This is $3,000. You get the airplane flight. We give you $1,000 to get you on your way if you wish to deport. And if you do it that way, you'll be able to come back someday as a legal citizen. The other way, you won't. What's wrong with that? They're afraid people will accept. We'll get to that and a whole bunch more, plus some of your calls and comments. We got a great show ahead, 866-90-RED-EYE.
Hi there, this is Hope Zavara with Mother Trucker Yoga, and here's your health tip of the day. Healthy driver, healthy diesel, powered by Howes. Truck drivers are at high risk for carpal tunnel and grip issues from long hours at the wheel, leading to pain, stiffness, and weakness over time. Let's fix that right at the wheel. Using your steering wheel, stretch one finger at a time, starting from your thumb to your pinky. Hold each of those for 10 seconds. Then place all 4 fingers on the wheel and gently press and stretch your palm and wrist. Hold for another 10 seconds. Don't forget to do the other hand. Do this 2 to 3 times a day to keep your hands mobile, strong, and ready for action. There you go. Small, simple changes that can lead to big results so you can feel good again. Visit mothertruckeryoga.com and howesproducts.com for more tips and support.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off because he's under the weather. I know he had a high temperature, and so hopefully he's feeling okay, and we'll be back ASAP. This was the biggest story of yesterday. Latest poll. By the way, whenever there's a poll that we disagree with, they have no credibility. When there's a poll that we agree with, it has total credibility, right? Here's the poll. Vast majority of likely voters want Trump tax cuts extended. You could also write that the vast majority of likely voters do not want a tax increase. I'm shocked. Now, what are the numbers? This is from Breitbart. Vast majority of likely U.S. voters want President Donald Trump's 2017 tax cuts extended, a recent public opinion strategy survey found. The survey posed the following to respondents. As you may know, the tax cuts that were passed in 2017 under President Donald Trump will fully expire at the end of 2025 if the president and Congress do not extend them. It continued, if you were in Congress and you had a choice between voting to keep the current tax rates or do nothing and letting tax rates increase, would you vote to keep current tax rates or let taxes increase? Now, I like the way that that's written. Guess what the number is? Guess what the number is that doesn't want a tax increase, that wants Congress to pass to continue those the tax cuts? What do you think? Now, they didn't even put in there. This is the thing. They didn't even put in the question about tax on overtime, tax on tips, or the most important one, no taxes on Social Security. That wasn't even put in there. And still, 84% across the board said they would vote to keep the current tax rates if they were in Congress. Just 16% said they would allow taxes to increase. Now, I know, like you, I want to know who those 16% are. That would be a great focus group. Who are these people who say, no, we want our taxes to go up? Do they really mean it, or did they just wish to be, I don't know, cogs in the wheel? Just get in the way. So 84% across the board said they would vote to keep the current tax rates if they were in Congress. Just 16% said that they would allow an increase. There is a bipartisan agreement here as well, as 95% of Republicans, 81% of independents, and 74% of Democrats all agree they would vote to keep the current tax rates. It would bode well politically for a member of Congress to vote in favor of keeping the current tax rates, as 63% of likely voters admitted they would be more likely to vote for a representative if they would prevent taxes from increasing. That includes a majority, 59% of independents. Further, 75% across the board believe that not extending the Trump tax cuts would hurt middle-class families. Another 74% believe it would hurt small businesses. 74% said it would hurt American consumers. And ultimately, 69% believe it would hurt the economy. As if that was not proof enough, the survey revealed that 85% of respondents agreed with the following statements. Congress should focus on preventing taxes from increasing and should vote as soon as possible to keep the 2017 tax cuts in place. American families need the economic certainty that comes with knowing their taxes won't be going up next year. Extend the tax cuts now and then move on to the cutting of government spending. But tax cuts before government spending cuts. We'll delve into that and more coming up.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off because he is under the weather. Just keeping track of what's going on at the University of Washington in Seattle. Antifa and pro-Hamas activists have taken over, I guess, an engineering building. And this is a building, I think, that was sponsored or helped to be built by Boeing. And so I see a bonfire going on now there. I did see fires have begun to be started, fires for barriers to keep the police out. This was 31 minutes ago. The Seattle Police Department are lined up in the alley directly behind the fire. They've given a 30-minute dispersal order for the protesters, rioters, occupiers. That's what they are. We'll keep you updated on that for a particular story, though. But, yeah, when you look at it, the poll that we were talking about, the vast majority of likely voters want Trump tax cuts extended. And so do we, even though we need to remind everybody that when the 2017 tax cuts, I love doing this, when the 2017 tax cuts came to be, Eric's taxes and my taxes went up because of the business taxes that both of us have to pay relating to things that we're both involved in. Our taxes went up. My taxes went up for the same amount of, basically the same amount of income from the year before, $1,500. So the problem in 2017 was tax cuts for everybody and tax increases for Eric and Gary, because that was the problem. Apparently, though, that did not solve the deficit problem. So, just so you know, so full transparency here, that if the Trump tax cuts go away, most likely you'll all get an increase in taxes, and Eric and my taxes go down. So there you go. But when you look at it here, they said 85% of respondents agree with the following statement. Congress should focus on preventing taxes from increasing and should vote as soon as possible to keep the 2017 tax cuts in place. American families need the economic certainty that comes with knowing their taxes won't be going up next year. Extend the tax cuts now and then move on to cutting government spending. Of course, we knew that doesn't surprise me at all, that's secondary to making sure that you get your tax cuts or you continue to get tax relief. What I would find interesting is if they added, I wish it would have added, let me just see. No, they didn't. No, I wish it would have added the taxes on tips, taxes on overtime, and taxes on Social Security. What would the polling have been at that point? Because it was 84% across the board. Said if they were a member of Congress, they would vote to keep the current tax rates the way they are and not raise taxes. And 85% say make sure the tax cuts stay in place now and do the cutting later. Now, we're not surprised by that at all. Because as we've said before, Americans have always been for ensuring that we have an efficient government that cuts spending, but when it actually comes down to it, it's always a different story. And it may be this time, too. That's what we're wondering with all the hype of Doge. And we had said this back when? Because when this goes back maybe 2-3 years ago, that the majority of Americans thought that we could balance the budget by getting rid of foreign aid and getting rid of wasteful spending. And we said at the time, and we were criticized for it, we said, no, you can't. When Elon Musk came out and said we can cut $2 trillion from waste and inefficiency, we said, no, you can't. When he said you could cut $1 trillion, we said, no, you can't. We said, we hope maybe you could do $100 billion. And right now it's at $150 billion, but with the president already admitting last week that some of the things that they cut, they're going to put back in, maybe they could get to that $100 billion figure. But if they just keep spending, there's no indication yet from any Republican in Congress that they will actually cut the entire budget by any amount, even $1. And the sad thing about that is that I think that DOGE is one of the gutsiest things that an administration has ever done. Because there really isn't an upside. When you start cutting, Americans say they want to cut, but when you start cutting, then you're always going to find the media is going to pound on it. The local media is going to be, these people don't have this, these people don't have this. And the public slowly turns against cuts. And because if the public was for it, you'd see it. Back in 2000, was it 2008? When the 30-year proposal came to balance a budget within 30 years, oh my gosh. Republicans were shown pushing old people off a cliff in a wheelchair. So, and that was to balance the budget in 30 years. Nope. Can't do that. And so it'll be the worst thing if there's absolutely no cuts or that you don't keep spending even or just the rate of inflation. Because then after all the hype and hoopla of DOGE, if it doesn't get done now, it will never get done. And the people that will suffer will be our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. Eric and I have always said this, and you don't hear this much. The most immoral thing that the American public has allowed, the most selfish thing the American public has allowed, is government to put us into the debt that we have today and prioritize what we want today over the future of our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. One of the reasons this country was found was taxation without representation. Oh, boy, we're really smart because we found that loophole. We'll just tax the people that haven't been born yet by borrowing endlessly. When we used to get on and talk about this, people would say, you guys, stop it. The debt isn't a problem. Well, then inflation hit. And what was that due to? Government spending, borrowing more money, loose monetary policy. So now we know, every one of you know, everyone knows that borrowing money can end up hurting you in the long run. We know it. And still, is the public united behind stopping the biggest domestic immoral thing that the public has done in the United States? No. There's not really a push for it. Even after DOGE and everything else, there's not a push for it. And that's a shame. Because whenever it happens, whenever, we've already seen where we are with how vulnerable we are when it comes to other governments buying our debt. We found that out with the whole tariff thing. You saw what happened to the bond market and the absolute panic from the administration. My God, what happens if foreign countries stop buying our debt? What do? We're vulnerable in that area, and we think about it for a day, and then we move on saying, okay, just keep doing it, just keep doing it, just keep doing it. Now, the other thing is, where is it? Because this was a great article. This article was like, where'd it go? Here it is. Now, this off the beaten path, it still has to do with taxes. People who pay more taxes could be less likely to die from cancer. The link was revealed. Now, see, Eric and I are looking at this as good news because our taxes went up in 2017. That's why we're so damn healthy. The link was revealed in a new study published in the JAMA Network Open, which aimed to explore how state-level tax revenue impacts cancer screenings and mortality in the United States. Researchers from Ohio State University, Emory University in Georgia, and the University of Verona in Italy analyzed 1,150 state years of tax data over a 23-year period between 97 and 2019. A state year refers to 1 year of data from one state. They reviewed population-level cancer screening rates and cancer-related deaths from Centers of Disease Control and Prevention database. The states with higher tax income were found to have increased cancer screening rates and decreased cancer mortality rates, the researchers found. For each $1,000 increase in tax revenue per capita, the population had a 1.61 increase in colorectal cancer screening, a 2.17% increase in breast cancer screening, and a 0.72% increase in cervical cancer screening, the research showed. Among those who had cancerous tumors, each $1,000 increase in tax revenue per capita was linked to up to a 4% decrease in death among white patients. The same reduced risk was not found for other racial and ethnic minority populations, according to the study. Now, to do something like that, to make a comparison, you can make a lot of comparisons that would not relate either way. If I were to just off the top of my head say why, because if you have a highly progressive state that taxes the daylights out of millionaires and billionaires or whatever, and really taxes them, California, for example, with 13%, well, those people are extremely rich. So naturally they have better, they have access because they have the money to whatever medical care and whatever screening they need. If you were to ask me just to analyze that right off the top of my head, I'd say that might be something to consider. All right, 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley. He's under the weather. He's sick today. I'm Gary McNamara. I'm not sick. I'm here with you. Coming up following the top of the hour, how the left going crazy about the concept of Trump having a military parade, which would be next year, America's 250th birthday. Wow. I keep reading that saying, well, no, what are you talking about? We just had the bicentennial. Seemed like it was yesterday. Oh, my God. Oh, no. 50 years ago. It seems like yesterday. Time has gone too quickly. The funny thing is, time goes quickly when you look back, but when you're going through it at times, sometimes it goes quickly, and sometimes some of the years were like, is this year ever going to end? Please end, please. But when you get to the point 50 years later and look back, it's like, it seems so quick. Well, at times it really didn't. But we'll get to the whole thing of, just like MSNBC is very uncomfortable with the idea of a patriotic parade for America's 250th birthday. Really interesting because, we have, I've always thought of it, and it's like, when Trump talked about, having tanks, and it's like, well, the roads can't handle it. And I'm thinking to myself, back at that time, I went, so everybody's okay as long as the military might comes from the air. For example, all the air shows that we have, and people go and look at all the military jets, and that's fine. But if it's on the ground, you can't have it. Any military parade must only be in the air, not on the ground. But trying to compare it to, like, North Korea and the old Soviet Union, it's like, shut up. But what I find interesting, and we'll play the audio coming up, is Americans aren't concerned about that at all. The last thing on Americans' mind, 250th birthday? Oh, we'll have a bunch of military equipment out there? Well, that's cool because they've defended us so we could last 250 years. That's fine and dandy. I've got no problem with that. So we'll get to that. The other thing is, let me see, where I had the latest from Cam Higbee, who, remember a couple of years ago, covered the UCLA riots? Remember the post-October 7th? University of Washington fire getting dangerously close to catching a building on fire. Several e-scooters and electric bike batteries have exploded. This is where they're saying it's Antifa and pro-Hamas groups taking over the engineering building there at the University of Washington. Look at that. Several e-scooters and electric bike batteries have exploded. Well, it's it. The whole climate change stuff is out the window. Then again, you see increase ice? Increase ice in the world? We'll get to that coming up.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley. He has the morning off because he's under the weather. He had a temperature and just told me, he said, if I'll let you know if I'm going to come in, but if not, no. So, he wasn't feeling good. And if Eric doesn't come in because he's sick, it means he's really sick. Because I've seen him drag himself in here just because he loves doing the show. But how's everybody doing, huh? Everybody doing good? Talked to Dad the other day, and he said, say hi to everybody. So Dad says hi to everybody. I'm going to see him again. I'll be in Friday and Saturday and come back early Sunday morning to see him. Turned 99. Some days he's great. Sometimes, he's great and just loses it a little bit, and at other times his cognitive abilities, are really bad. And so it's I'm not the only one to go through, I'm not the only one to go through this. So many of you have had, dementia. He hasn't been diagnosed. It was really in the last month and a half or so. We said, okay, maybe a neurologist time. But it's like 6 months, 7-month wait in New York for him to get in, which we're trying to rectify in some way. But it's not really going to make a difference because his physical capabilities, he's basically in a wheelchair now. He really can't walk anymore. So, but the family, I tell you, my brother and my sisters are saints. They become his full-time caretakers. I mean, my siblings are saints. They really, really are. But he's happy. I talked to him briefly yesterday, and he was doing okay. Just confused health-wise. Like his blood work. His blood work's great. He's got the pacemaker, but his heart, all that stuff's great. It's just his physical capabilities, his muscles, just all of that just starts breaking down. But when he said the other day, he goes, make sure you say hi to everybody. I said, okay, Dad, I'll say hi to everybody. So, I've been blessed. It's, you wish in a way it wasn't like this. I understand reality, but it's always tough from someone who's and everybody's mind is everything. But when you look at your dad, who's an engineer, and all he did was analyze constantly, and there will be times. This was 2 times ago when I was there. He was looking at a table, and I'm like, "What are you looking at?" He goes, "I'm just seeing how it's designed, and I can't." And he just said, "I can't." Then he just sat looking at it, and I realized He still has that engineering mind. He still has a curiosity, but he can't connect all the dots. And to me, that was heartbreaking. Just absolutely heartbreaking, with my dad. So, because he just, his mind, the curiosity, the, analyzing everything and how it's made and how it works and all that. And you can still see part of it is there. And then, like anybody, I think we all go through the questions of, what makes up a person. If their mind is completely gone, is that the same person? Well, we know it is. We know they're in there. That same person, will feel pain, whatever. And so what you hope to keep him at this age comfortable and, comfortable and happy. But it's been, and I think a lot of you saw the picture that I can't remember. I think I posted it on both X and Facebook around his birthday, about 3 weeks ago, and got a lot of comments. That was Christmas, and that's the one at my sister's house where I'm sitting with my dad, and it's on X and it's on my Facebook page, and holding hands with my dad. And I've done that for the last couple of years when we just get together, sit and just hold his hand and talk to him. And I was thinking at Christmas time, I went, you never know, this may be the last time he has all of his cognitive abilities. And it ended up being that time. And my sister was walking by and I said, take a picture of this. And I didn't have any indication. I mean, he was, really the same for the last couple of years, physically slowing down. And again, we all do. At times, Eric and I will laugh. We always laugh because if I forget something and can't remember something, every time I ask him or vice versa, the other one can't remember it either. And we always get the biggest kick out of it because we're going through hundreds of thoughts every hour. Our minds move very, very quickly to do this kind of show. And then the simplest thing you can't remember. And we've all gone through that. And so my dad had that, but his cognitive abilities were there, but it ended up being the last time. And to see how quickly it can go the opposite direction, you have those thoughts. When it comes to human life, what makes a human life? What makes a person? And it's their ability to think and their memories. And it's tough when you see that go. But like I said, he the other day said, say hi to everybody for me. So I am. All right, you ready? Let's, what are we going to hit? I just want to hit just look at what the left is talking about right now, what the left is concerned about. And I find it interesting. We'll start with MSNBC. And this is MSNBC talking about America's 250th birthday celebration and the president wanting to do a, military type of parade. Here we go.
There is this plan for the military/birthday parade. I'm curious, how do you think reporters should cover this? Are we just going to be standing there walking alongside the parade like business as usual? What are you going to do, and what do you think our industry should do to handle this and contextualize it in the most appropriate way?
Yeah, actually, that's a fantastic question. I'm sure that is a discussion happening across newsrooms in the country. I think first and foremost, everything with this administration, the reality is that context is king, right? You want to report on what is happening in the moment, but you also want to report on everything that surrounds it, understanding its place in society, understanding where it's coming from, understanding whether or not Donald Trump is, how truthful he's being about certain things. Obviously, the military parade is something that Donald Trump has been talking about since the campaign trail. There are other countries that Trump visited when he stepped one foot inside of North Korea that also has things like military parades, right? So we kind of see the genesis of maybe where he's getting some of these ideas. But I think for our purposes as journalists, we have to do what we're doing day in and day out, which is speak truth without fear or favor of what this administration could do. And that's honestly telling people that, it's not going to be free, that it's going to cost potentially $45 million is what estimates have said, that it would fall on different units inside of the Army, including the Navy, all those things like that, potentially taking away from money that's used for training. and just really all about how this military parade not just came to be, but its effect in the country and whether or not, it's something that Americans want to see.
All right, first off, you can always use the monetary angle. And so should the thing be that we don't spend any money for the 250th birthday celebration? The federal government should spend no money. There's an argument with the debt that we're in. You can make the argument, why can't this be covered by, why can't all corporate do something like this? Why can't it be promoted that way? But that's not what they're talking about. The monetary angle is a different angle completely, because we spent money, the federal government did, with the bicentennial. And the 250th, Congress will probably allocate money for it. If you wish to do it from a strictly money angle with the debt that we're in, you could have a good point, saying let corporations do it. Have pick 10 different corporations and give them a tremendous amount of publicity, for making sure that we can have a 250th celebration and and the military part of it. But the military part of it, as you can see, the first thing was, well, this is like North Korea. And this gets to the point of, and it was really, they kept it quiet till a few years ago. The left absolutely hates it when you have any type of military flyover at a football game. Now, all that costs taxpayer dollars. Every time there's a military flyover, the NFL doesn't pay for it. The government pays for it. But that's not what they're talking about. I can still remember, and this goes back, it's really the whole Colin Kaepernick thing. I can still remember, I know one sports reporter in particular who I know, who was like, the military-industrial complex, what does that have to do? What does that have to do with the football game? Planes flying over, the military-industrial complex, the military and football. They've got, shut up! It's simple what it is. You go to a football game, people are united. What are they united about? They're united about their community. They're united about the country. Football games are a celebration. It's entertainment, but it's also a celebration. A celebration of unity. And what are we unified about? What are most of us unified about? But what has unified Americans throughout our history? Is it just that we live in the same geographical area? Or is it because of the Constitution we share the same values of how a society should be constructed, and we honor those people who are willing to die and all the efforts that have been put forward in order to have a military to defend the Constitution of the United States? What the left fails to understand, or purposely does not want to understand, is if there's an air show, and there's air shows every summer, and what are those planes for? We know what they're for. They're for to win wars. That's what they're for. But we celebrate the fact of the military exists. The military equipment exists and is designed. Good God, go to the Discovery Channel or the History Channel and the number of the Smithsonian Channel. And you go to all these different programs that go through all the military equipment and all the technology that's in there. It's pretty cool to see. I saw the interview with Jay Leno the other day. He's got 2 tanks. I didn't know he's got 2 tanks. Does that mean that Jay Leno is a vicious murderer who's just out to murder people because he's got tanks? No. And so, yeah, if you want to talk about the money angle, that we shouldn't be spending the money, it should be corporate, that's a great discussion to have. When we need fiscal sanity in the age of Doge, absolutely. That's not the point of the left. It's not the spending of the money. They look at it as an example to say, North Korea did it, Soviet Union did it, therefore if the United States did it, that means we're promoting the same thing. No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that at all. As I just explained, but I just find it humorous. How are we going to report this? 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 And, and to put it into context, you simply say, Happy birthday, America, 250th birthday. Happy birthday. Enjoy the day. Look at all the people and look at all the equipment and look at all the companies that have built all this equipment. One of the great things would be a lot of these companies that actually build or are involved in building all the different equipment. I used to do it. When I worked when I was a United Steelworker, I worked as a machinist, and at times when my machine broke down in heat treat, running away from the flames from the heat treat furnace. But we built compressors for the Navy. When I worked at Worthington Compressors in South Buffalo, for ships and whatever. When I worked and I was just looked it up the other day because I was wondering whatever happened to the one company I used to work for, and they are now in St. Augustine, Florida. I used to work at a place called Riley Gear, and we made gears for the military. We made gears back then. This would be when I worked there. I worked in their New York plant, which I saw just recently closed down, and now they're located in St. Augustine, Florida. And we used to make and build gears for the M1 tank and a lot of other military applications at that point. I was glad to see they're still in business. They moved to Florida, but they're still in business, and that made me happy because that was some great times in my life. So, and they were a small manufacturer. They were only, 100 people. I don't know what they are today, but it doesn't look like they're a place that has thousands of employees. I did see, when I looked it up the other day, I saw the building in Florida, and it was like, oh, okay. Probably a couple of hundred people that work there, and they're still making the gears. I can still remember, and I don't know whether it's true or not, but I remember way back then, it's like the difference between the equipment that we have in the United States and the Soviet Union, we make better gears. That gears are the reason. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but we always like saying it. But yeah, money you might be able to use as an example of as a reason that we shouldn't be doing it. But any other thing, comparing us to North Korea, comparing us to anyone else, is just stupid. 866-98-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max. Just because idling is common doesn't make it smart. Idling a diesel uses about a gallon of fuel per hour, which can cost you about $180 per week at $4.50 per gallon if your truck idles 8 hours a day. Idling easily can cost you a few thousand more in fuel alone per year, not including the added engine maintenance expense that results from excessive idling. Harder on your truck's engine than highway driving. In addition to operating costs, many governments impose no idling laws and regulations with fines as high as $25,000. Instead, there are many alternatives. An extra blanket for cold temperatures, window screens for when the weather is warm, bunk heaters, and various auxiliary power unit options abound in this day and age too, many powered just by batteries. Otherwise, diesel and gas gensets burn far less fuel than your truck's engine. Research options to find your fit. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
Red Eye Radio, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off because he is under the weather. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, MTG goes after the administration. That's Marjorie Taylor Green. Backed off yesterday saying, we're not angry at the president, only Congress. Yet everything she mentioned, Congress has nothing to do with. So we'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. She backed off big time. She must have gotten some criticism for some of the opinions that she took the other day, but not surprising. This is, to me, it's one of the things that a significant portion of the people that supported Trump got wrong about Trump. We didn't. We knew he wasn't an isolationist, but a lot of people that voted for him thought he was. We'll get to that coming up.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric is under the weather tonight, so it's you and me, 866-90 Red Eye. Hey, download our Red Eye Radio app today, because then you can listen whenever you choose. That's the Red Eye Radio app. Boga. I'm kidding. That's buy one, get one free. No, it's free. The app is free. It's not been. There's no tariffs on the app. There's no taxes on the app. It's absolutely free, and you're not going to be charged anything at any time for it. So there you go. The other thing is still, I mean, when you look at what the left is talking about, they're still just pounding. They're not going to win it. They just keep pounding. Yesterday, to me, it was MSNBC was on the military parade, and CNN still just all over illegal immigration. It's like, you're not going to win this. They just keep pounding it over and over and over and over again. I actually found it pretty interesting. I found it pretty hilarious. Let's play this one from Scott Jennings. Here we go. All right, this is some of the back and forth that went on yesterday.
Do you believe that every immigrant here is the same? You can't believe that because they're not. They're not.
I do.
There's some good, there's some bad. There's some criminal,
I believe everybody who's here illegally is here illegally. Not all are violent, but all are here illegally.
But how do you differentiate if nobody gets a hearing, if you don't have due process? How do you distinguish one from the other? Well, so what you're saying is every person that's here in this country is a criminal, is a gang member, should be thrown in jail.
Every person who's here illegally, every person who is here illegally is in fact a criminal. Some of them do come here and commit violent crimes and still aren't deported.
If you don't have a process?
Well, some have records and some don't. I'm here to break the news. They're all going away. So here's the deal. We've let 20 million something people into the country illegally. And now what a lot of folks want to do is use the court system to try to stop as much as possible the rapid deportation of illegal aliens from the country. What the president said in the interview was very clear. He was unsure on these deportation cases because of the unusual circumstances, but he was going to defer to his brilliant lawyers and said, quote, "We are going to follow what the Supreme Court says." There is no outrage here that's worth it.
There you go. And that's what the president said. I'll defer to the Supreme Court of the United States. We had said this, that we believe that Trump wants to throw. We believe, again, this is speculation on our part. We believe that the president looks at the judicial branch and says they have not been held accountable like the other branches of government are. The executive branches are held accountable. Why? Elections. Part of the reason that Kamala Harris lost, I almost said Biden, same difference. Part of the reason is because the administration went after Trump through lawfare. That's one of the reasons. Because that's why Democrats are still going nuts. 34 felonies, how could possibly? Because the public viewed that as being bogus. Why did the public view it as bogus? Because they looked at it and they said, we have rogue prosecutors, we have rogue judges. There are judges that do not want to abide by the law. We saw it with the Wisconsin judge. We saw it with the former judge in New Mexico. There are judges out there that just don't want to abide by the oath that they've taken. And I think Trump wants to expose that. And I also think he wants to get everything that he believes or everything that he's not sure of up to the Supreme Court to get it decided, because I think he believes he'll get a lot more wins than he will get losses from the Supreme Court. It's that simple. And he wants clarity on it. He wants clarity on things like illegal immigration. He wants clarity as to, okay, you know as well as we do, we can't go on with the system that says you can stay in this country for 15 years, 20 years, 10 years, whatever, until your case is adjudicated by a particular court. Now, one of the things he could do is hire thousands of immigration lawyers. But the fact is, as was brought up by one of the Trump supporters yesterday, immigration lawyers work for the executive branch. The immigration lawyers actually work for the executive branch. So they're not part of the judicial branch. Like, well, that's a good point. But still, they're arguing the same thing. Now, they're not arguing specifically Garcia anymore, are they? Anybody hear any Garcia? Did the Garcia talk finally end this weekend? No, because I saw some Democrats yesterday saying we still need to get more people down to El Salvador. It's like, okay, go ahead. It really, it is a little bit insane, isn't it? Just a tad insane. I just want to keep you updated. Let me see if there's a latest out there going on at the University of Washington at Seattle, where there is the pro-Hamas Antifa protests, whatever you want to call it. I mean, bonfire, riots. I don't know if you call it a riot yet. I don't know if things have been thrown yet, but we've been following it here for a little bit. We've got Cam Higbee, who covered so much of the October 7th protest, especially at California universities, have been out there. This is, okay, that's 33 minutes ago. Jonathan Cho's out there. Happening now, multiple dispersal orders given by cops, but some Antifa militants still occupying the University of Washington engineering building. And looking at it here, I wanted to play some of the audio, but every time I try to pick audio, there's just massive cursing from the protesters. So I just, I really can't do that. But that's within the last half hour, that one. And so, like I said, we'll keep you up. It doesn't seem to be like thousands of people. It seems like maybe a couple of hundred out there, but they did. I don't know how many are in the engineering building, but it's all. It's they say it's Antifa and pro-Hamas people that are protesting, from the independent reporters that I've seen who are out there this evening. So we will keep you updated on that. Don't know if it's going to, by the time we get to the end of the show, be over. Normally when we've seen protests before, by the time you get early in the morning, they move on to something else. All right, in other news out there, and hang on one second here. Let me just get to you. I got to get to. I've got so many windows open here. Please excuse me. A ton of windows. All right, here it is. I found this interesting. This came out late last week, and then on Saturday, and this was thehill.com. Marjorie Taylor Green furious over Ukraine minerals deal and Iran talks. The base is not happy. Representative Marjorie Taylor Green unloaded a heap of criticism Friday on recent actions and inactions by the Trump administration and fellow Republicans, bringing up the Ukraine minerals deal, talks with Iran, and more, while being sure not to criticize President Trump personally. I represent the base, and when I'm frustrated and upset over the direction of things, you better be clear the base is not happy Green said Friday in a lengthy post on the social platform X. I campaigned for no more foreign wars, and now we are supposedly on the verge of going to war with Iran, Green said in reference to ongoing talks with Iran over its nuclear program. A fourth round of talks that was slated to take place in Rome over the weekend has been postponed. And then the president came out strong on Sunday and said full dismantle of the Iranian nuclear program. Green said, I don't think we should be bombing foreign countries on behalf of other foreign countries, especially when they have their own nuclear weapons and massive military strength. Then she turned to the minerals deal the U.S. signed with Ukraine this week, which would give the U.S. a share of Ukraine's natural resources if the U.S. sends more money to Ukraine as it fights off a Russian invasion. Green argued that by the way, this is the editorializing is coming from thehill.com. Green argued that the Ukrainian president is a dictator who canceled elections, which was due to the war and was involved in the first impeachment of Trump. Why on earth would we go over and occupy Ukraine and spend an untold amount of future American taxpayer dollars defending and mining their minerals, as well as potentially putting American lives at risk in future war? Green said, why don't we just mine our own rare earth minerals that are tied up on federal lands that the government confiscated years ago? The post from the Georgia Congresswoman is striking, given that she has been one of Trump's most vocal and prominent supporters. Green also lamented that the COVID-19 vaccine still has FDA approval and wondered if those vicious attorneys and judges who worked against the American people in the last 4 years would be held accountable for the lives that they ruined. She took aim at the Republicans in Congress, wondering when there would be a vote on budgetary rescissions to codify actions by the Department of Government Efficiency, and saying there is enough outrage and moral courage to dispose of this treason by rogue judges blocking Trump's actions. She said, when you lose MTG, you are losing your base, and Trump isn't on the ballot in the future, so do the math on that, Green said, implicitly dismissing the idea of Trump seeking a third term in 2028, which would require a constitutional amendment. Again, there's the editorializing of Emily Brooks there from the Hill .com. And then she came out yesterday, I think it was. Let me see if I can find it here, an update from the Hill.com, where she said, I'm not blaming Trump, I'm blaming Congress for it. Well, Congress has nothing to do with Iran. Congress has nothing to do with the mineral deal in Ukraine. What I find really interesting is when Trump first got into office, everybody wondered, would he be an isolationist? That when he said peace through strength, did he mean it? Or did he mean what we have come to get used to in this country, peace through enabling? Was he serious about it? And there are a lot of people that wondered. And before he targeted Soleimani for the killing of U.S. soldiers and the attacking of U.S. soldiers, it got to be bigger when it was said that there was an attack that was going to take out some of the infrastructure of Iran, and the president pulled back. This was in the first term. Then when we went after Soleimani, it was like, well, okay, he's just doing it a different way. But at that point, we said, okay, we never believed he was an isolationist, even though a lot of people that supported him thought he was, including MTG. And then she's trying to back off, but it's a poor back off because everyone knows Congress has nothing to do with the Iran deal, or excuse me, Iran deal with Iran and Israel. That's completely the administration. That's totally under the authority of the president. And so is the Ukraine deal, completely under the authority of the president. So she's wimping out here. She also was severely criticized yesterday for attacking the bill that would expand when it's legit for the U.S. to criticize different organizations that say boycott Israel. She got pounded on that yesterday. But all of these things are things that Trump is doing. And I never believed, and Eric never believed, that he was as isolationist as many of his MAGA supporters thought that he was. We said, we just don't see an indication on that. And the whole thing now, and she's furious since the White House came out and said, well, no, part of the reason that Trump did the Ukraine deal, as we said it early on, did the Ukraine deal is to have that wedge against Russia. 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off because he's under the weather. Yeah, then it came out yesterday. She was on News Nation. Marjorie Taylor Green said Monday, President Trump's base is furious with Congress, but not the president himself. Last week she said, as we had mentioned earlier, that the base is not happy, noting the Ukraine minerals deal and talks with Iran, among other subjects. I represent the base, and when I'm frustrated and upset over the direction of things, you better be clear, the base is not happy. Now, she was directly talking to Trump because Congress has nothing to do with the Iran deal or the Ukraine mineral deal. She did say yesterday, though, actually, the base is thrilled with President Trump. Border security has never been better. The economy is going in the right direction. Gas is coming down. Inflation is coming down. She wimped out. She backed off. But she was directing it towards Trump. We'll get to that coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, he is Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. I am here. Eric's sick, just so you know. I think it was 102.5. Whoa. 102.5 temperature is what he had. And he was fine last night. I'll tell you this about Eric, though. He gets sick quick. He does. When he gets sick, it's just like, I'll see him one day, he'll be fine, come in the next day. I'm like, wow, you get sick quick. I don't want to. Well, I knocked on wood before, right? I did knock on wood before. Yeah, I did not, so I'm safe here. Hold it. There's a little bit of wood over here. All right. There it is. Unless it's fake simulated wood. My last doctor appointment, and I love the way it works now. Because I'm a type 2 diabetic, everything's fine, don't worry. I go to the doctor twice a year. And so you got to put in for your blood work. So I put in for my blood work, and I go give the blood work, and they're so quick now. I mean, it used to take 3 or 4 days. Now I can go in the morning, and by 8 o'clock that night, I'll wake up to come to work, and I've got, the notification that my blood work is in. It's like, wow, that's great. And so I get it even before the doctor looks at it. But since I know what most of the stuff means, that's cool. I mean, I really don't care. And a couple days later, the doctor will comment on it, and then I'll get his notes on my blood work before I actually walk in. So I'm going through it, and I'm like, oh, looks good. What's this? And it was one of the white blood cell counts that was a little bit below normal. And, of course, so it's, no, I wasn't that worried. I said, well, I'll wait to see what he responds. And when he gives his comments, there's no comments on it. It's like, oh, no, oh, no, oh, no. By the way, am I breaking any HIPAA laws here by talking about my blood work? Gary was talking about his blood work the other day. And so he doesn't mention it at all. He just says, okay, good, good sugar control, good all the stuff when you're a type 2 diabetic, what you get. So I'm like, okay, he didn't mention it. Parents, not a big problem, but still sticking in my mind. So, waiting for him, the door opens. He goes, hey, whoa, man, blood work looks great. And you lost a couple more pounds. Fantastic. I go, to hell with that. What's the white blood cell count thing? He looks at me, smiles. He goes, what do you think? You have leukemia or something? I go, I don't know. He goes, no. He said, when was the last time you were sick or had a virus? And I remember the last time I was really, that I was sick enough where I think I still came to work. But I did go, this had to be 3.5 years ago, was the last time that I really had a bad flu. I said, I think 3.5 years ago. He says, yeah, you don't get sick much, do you? And I went, no. He said, that's why your white blood cell count in this area here is so low. And then he explained to me, if you had a problem, it would be, this would be low, that'd be high, this would be low, this would be high, this and that. Then he started losing me because I'm not a chemistry major. But yeah, that was funny. So I told the story before when we were talking about Eric to Alan and Ron over there, and I was knocking on wood, going, I haven't been sick in a while, knock on wood, knock on wood. But I guess that's a good thing, right? But we hope Eric feels better and he's back really, really soon, because I know whenever he's out, he's like, I can't stand not being at work. That's what I know. All right, so we were talking about Marjorie Taylor Green going after the administration, going after the president on Friday, and then backing off yesterday. She was saying, actually, the base is thrilled with President Trump. Now, I've always said about Trump, there's a number of bases out there. But the MTG base of it, which would, I think, include some of the surrogates out there that did not want what he did in Ukraine, did not want the minerals deal, and especially they're not happy that he came out and the administration specifically stated they did that. One of the reasons was to help pay for what we're giving them, but the other reason was to have the wedge against Russia. They were not happy with that at all. And then what he said about the Iran deal, reading this here, read Trump's lips on Iran, Wall Street Journal editorial. He wants a nuclear program dismantled and sanctions pressure restored. Nuclear negotiations have so far brought relief for Iran, while U.S. policy has appeared to waver. That is until President Trump's clear policy statement Sunday on NBC's Meet the Press. Trump was asked, is the goal of these talks limiting Iran's nuclear program or total dismantlement? Total dismantlement, he said. That's all you'll accept? That's all I'd accept. That's as clear as it gets. In saying so, Mr. Trump has repudiated the views of those in his administration who wanted to water down U.S. policy. Some advisors argue it would be better to let Iran have nuclear weapons than to carry out a military strike or support an Israeli strike. Mr. Trump doesn't buy it. The only thing they can't have is a nuclear weapon, Trump said on Sunday, because the world will be destroyed. The Ayatollahs shout death to America, and they mean it. They have arms to menace Israel and Europe and work on ICBMs to bring America in range. Other aides don't rule out military options, but would settle for another Obama-style deal, well short of dismantlement. A key issue is whether Iran will be allowed to enrich uranium that could be used for a bomb. Mr. Trump, lead envoy Steve Witkoff, said in April that Iran does not need to enrich past 3.67%, which seemed to concede that Iran can continue to enrich up to that point. That's the Obama standard, already 2/3 of the way to weapons grade. Mr. Witkoff then walked that back, but Reuters reports the initial framework under discussion at the talks preserved the core of the 2015 Iran deal, the one Mr. Trump calls the worst deal ever. This would allow enrichment but sets limits for a time and try to monitor compliance while Iran stays in position for a speedy nuclear breakout. Mr. Trump rejects this for good reason. The president did not rule out an idea floated by Secretary of State Marco Rubio that Iran could keep civilian nuclear energy by importing low-enriched uranium rather than enriching it at home. That's how countries that don't want nukes do it. 23 of them from Canada and United Arab Emirates to South Korea. But even there, Mr. Trump is skeptical. He described it Sunday as a new theory for Iran and added, but I say they have so much oil, what do they need nuclear energy for? He noted civilian energy often leads to military wars. If Iran wants to keep reactors, it's to preserve the option to produce weapons. Thanks to Israel, Iran's nuclear program is as exposed as it will ever be, but the course of negotiations has provided relief. The Iranian rial has appreciated 20% since talks began, and a leak to the New York Times undermined the threat of an Israeli attack amid talks. In setting a tough U.S. policy, Mr. Trump can change that, together with last week's threat to China for buying Iranian oil and Defense Secretary Peter Hegseth's threat to Iran over Houthi attacks. A firm position on nuclear negotiations can halt the slide in U.S.-Iran policy. So there you go. The U.S. postponed nuclear talks this past weekend, which is no cause for alarm. The U.S. isn't desperate, and sanctions need time to mount and choke off the Iranian oil exports. That's the best route to a deal to dismantle Iran's nuclear threat, short of a military strike. And again, I mean, this is what Marjorie Taylor Green is against. This is what some, and again, I don't want to say MAGA because there's a number. I remember in the first, we didn't do it this time. I never sat down and did it, but we did it in Trump's first term, where we actually went and said, okay, who are the people that voted for Trump that made him win? And we came with 8 different segments. So there's this thing that, you know, everybody who votes for Trump, you know, MAGA, all has one mindset, and that's not true. That's not true at all. But you have had some, like Marjorie Taylor Green and others, you can see them on social media, that, for example, were pounding on Ukraine for a consistent period of time. When Trump did when he did the minerals deal, Eric and I, the first thing we said was, okay, there's how he goes in. He sells it by, we get money back. We get money back. Ukraine helps to pay their own way. And Eric and I, first thing we said is, but you have skin in the game now because you're going to have Americans over there. You've got skin in the game. You've got money coming in. This makes it so. They didn't say it at the time, but we called it. We said, this is why we believe he might be doing it. Administration came out over the weekend and said, yeah, we're doing it to have a wedge against Russia. And we always said, no matter what you think about Zelensky versus Russia, we have to. We have to, even if it's in the way that Trump is doing it, you have to confront Putin. You have to. Trump apparently sees it the way that we do there, and also exactly the way we see it in Israel, and exactly the way that we see it with Iran. And so a good call. Marjorie Taylor Green absolutely wimped out on it. She must have got a call from the White House saying back off on it. Actually, the base is thrilled with President Trump. Doesn't mention at all. She goes, we're furious with Congress. Congress has nothing to do with the Iran deal. They got nothing to do with Israel, how we react to Israel. And they've got nothing to do with Ukraine. That all comes directly from the administration. So when I saw it over the weekend, I went, whoa, the White House definitely is going to respond to her. And they actually got stronger after her criticism. You know, they got much stronger in their resolve of what they want to do. Look, we live in a very dangerous world. And now you have full permission, if you're going to call me a neocon, to call President Trump a neocon. Whatever that means. All I know is it's a dangerous world. Putin is not our friend. Zelensky may not be our friend, but it's what's in the best interest of the United States. And who is more of a worry? Who should be more of a worry? Ukraine. In the context of American security, who should we be concerned with most? And why should we confront, even in a soft Cold War, who should we confront? Who's more of a worry to the United States, Ukraine, or Russia? It's Russia. And on Iran, look, he said peace through strength. He meant it. And I think there are some of the MAGA people, like MTG, who thought it was, okay, no, say peace through strength, but be peace through enablement. And what she talked about, Israel, we shouldn't be helping Israel, who has the ability to defend themselves. No, they need American help. She's just way off on that one. So there was no war that happened. The administration or Trump really didn't criticize her, but believe me, behind the scenes, it had to get very, very, very messy. But Trump's made it absolutely clear now in Iran. No doubt about it. And I was amazed to see the White House over the weekend. I really was amazed to come out and say, well, no, it just wasn't about getting our money. Because that's how I think he sold it to some of the MAGA people that didn't want him in, which is, okay, we're in Ukraine. And, yeah, well, I don't trust either of them. I don't trust Zelensky and I don't trust Putin. But at least we're getting money. We'll get money for the arms that we give Ukraine. Oh, okay, well, at least, okay, we're being fiscally responsible. And then when he came out over the weekend and said, the administration came out and said, no, we did the other reason was to get a wedge against Russia. That was the last thing that many of the MAGA people that don't even want to see us involved in that at all, they weren't happy about that at all. It's not at Congress that they're ticked off at. It's the president. I don't know how much they're ticked off about Iran like she was or Israel, but definitely the Ukraine thing, especially when it came out, this is being used as a wedge against Russia and Putin. They weren't happy. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric's out sick this morning. So it's you and me. Checking the latest of the University of Washington in Seattle. Law enforcement officers have breached the mechanical engineering building. Looking at this video of them going in. The operation to remove the Antifa Hamas supporters apparently now is underway. The bonfires that they set are apparently been put out, and so don't know if this is the end of it or not at the University of Washington. But we've been covering that here for a significant period of the show. Let me see if there's anything here. The latest update. This within the last 45 minutes, police are making arrests inside the University of Washington's occupied engineering building. At least 9 student agitators detained so far. And let me see, what else do we have here? If there's anything else, it seems to be winding down, though. I'm looking at some of the older videos that they had there with the bonfires burning, but this wasn't a case of thousands of people. I don't know if it was 100 or two. You couldn't tell because just of the shots there. There wasn't like a field that that was open and you got a wide shot of it. It was a lot of corridors and outdoor alleyways and things like that. I would say that the protesters were at the most maybe a couple of hundred, but we'll keep updating you on that. But to end there with the whole Marjorie Taylor Green thing, we never believed that Trump was an isolationist. We never did on the show. And we never thought, when Trump, the perfect thing when you look at whether it's Israel, Iran, Ukraine, Russia, whatever, is not necessarily what the president would say every day, but it's what he did. And now with Iran, it's an absolute full dismantlement. That's it. We will accept nothing else, which it should have been from the very, very beginning. And so with Ukraine, we thought from as soon as he brought up the minerals deal, and when Marjorie Taylor Green came out against it and was furious about it on Friday, then backed off, that's because the White House probably hit her hard and said, shut up. We think the president, Eric's not here, I think I could safely speak for him, would probably agree with me that the president is doing absolutely what he should do in each and every one of those circumstances. But I think if MTG was ticked off on Friday, by the weekend, where you had the administration come out and say, well, no, we're also using the minerals deal as a wedge against Putin and Russia, that had to be just infuriating to her because, and I can't tell you why they have that belief. I don't understand it. And we have stated this from the very beginning. It doesn't matter whether you believe that Putin is bad and Zelensky is bad. It's what is the greater threat against the United States, and what's the right way, to, I guess, weave your way through this maze of trying to get peace and at the same time, let Putin know that he's not going to play you. And right now, this seems to be the play from the president. I think it's probably a smart one.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And good morning. I'm Gary McNamara. Erica's out sick this morning. It's you and me. Well, this was interesting yesterday. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon. I'm sorry, but I see her interviewed, and I expect her to see her in a ring. I'm sorry, because she was part of WWE. I still see her and I burst out laughing. But Secretary of Education Linda McMahon sent a scathing letter to Harvard University on Monday, not only blasting the school's handling of anti-Semitism, but also advising school officials to refrain from applying for future federal grants because they're not going to be provided. In the letter, McMahon told the president of Harvard that the federal government has a sacred responsibility to be an important steward of American taxpayer funds, adding that the school has amassed a largely tax-free $53.2 billion endowment and receives billions of dollars in taxpayer funds each year. Receiving such taxpayer funds is a privilege, not a right. Yet instead of using these funds to advance the education of its students, Harvard is engaging in a systemic pattern of violating federal law. Where do many of these students come from? Who are they? How do they get into Harvard or even our country? And why is there so much hate? These are questions that must be answered, among many more. But the biggest question of all is, why will Harvard not give straightforward answers to the American public? She also said the university has made a mockery of the higher education system in the United States, inviting foreign students to its campuses who engage in violent behavior and show contempt for the United States. McMahon slammed the school for adopting an embarrassing remedial math program for undergraduates, questioning why a school that's so difficult to get into, to get admitted to, has to teach low-level mathematics. Probably a decent question. She called out Harvard for being embroiled in plagiarism scandals and lambasted the school for allowing Harvard University and the Harvard Law Review to engage in ugly racism. She blasted Harvard for hiring former mayors Bill de Blasio of New York City and Lori Lightfoot of Chicago to teach leadership at its School of Public Health. This is like hiring the captain of the Titanic to teach navigation to future captains of the sea. Oh, my. Then she wrote, the above concerns are only a fraction of the long list of Harvard's consistent violations of its own legal duties. Given these and other concerning allegations, this letter is to inform you that Harvard should not seek grants from the federal government since none will be provided. Harvard will cease to be a publicly funded institution and can instead operate as a privately funded institution, drawing on its colossal endowment and raising money from its large base of wealthy alumni. You have an approximately $53 billion head start. Much of it was made possible by the fact that you are living within the walls of and benefiting from the prosperity secured by the United States of America and its free market system you teach your students to despise, she added. In closing, McMahon reminded the president of Harvard that the Trump administration had been willing to maintain federal funding to Harvard as long as the school complied with federal law to protect and promote student welfare and stop the racial preferencing. It was interesting because on CNBC yesterday, Bill Ackman of Harvard went to Harvard, a billionaire investor, and one of the loudest voices against what's the anti-Semitism of what has been going on at Harvard. Here he is talking about the letter yesterday on CNBC.
Bill, I'm just wondering, you're an alumnus. What should Harvard do where you'd say, okay, to get back in your good graces, what does the university need to do at this point?
Sure. So the right thing to do, or I should say the wrong thing to do, is receive a letter from the administration and write back saying, we're doing nothing. In fact, we're going to sue you. Okay, that's what Harvard did. What Harvard should have done is should have said, President Trump, you make some good points, right? Taxpayer money coming to Harvard, that's a privilege. It's not a right. And, taxpayer money, going to an institution, the institution cannot have massive amounts of administrative load, waste, bureaucracy. And we're going to eliminate it. We're going to hire Alex Partners, or restructuring firm. We're going to take a 3G, zero-based budgeting approach to our the way we run our administration. Things that are not inefficiency is causing harm, and we're wasting taxpayer money. Mr. President, you're right. Harvard has become, there is not viewpoint diversity at Harvard. Students are self-censoring their remarks in classrooms. Faculty are doing the same because people are afraid to have real conversations. You can't learn. You go to college to be exposed to a broad array of ideas. And I guess maybe I should be looking at Joe. Broad array of ideas. And that's not happening at Harvard. Free speech is not happening at Harvard. So you acknowledge the areas where the president is absolutely correct. And you say, look, we're going to fix those areas. Okay, we want to make a deal, Mr. President. What have we seen from Trump? He asked for the moon, kind of shock and awe. Okay, same thing true for Harvard, that most recent letter. You could argue it's certainly overreaching in some of the elements. But he wants to make a deal. Make a deal with the president. Commit to fix these things, which, by the way, your alumni want you to fix. It's in the best interest of Harvard. And treat shareholder, taxpayer money like as a fiduciary, and they're not doing that. And Harvard is not in a good financial position. This is something I think is not well appreciated. They nominally have a $53 billion endowment. I don't believe the carrying values of their endowment. 80% of the assets are invested in real estate, private equity, and venture capital.
So it's not liquid.
It's not liquid, and they're apparently selling a $1 billion slice of their private equity. Watch where that gets priced relative to the carrying value of the portfolio. My guess is it could be 30-40% below the current carrying value to get a bid. If in my business, if I owned a slice of something, I sold a piece of it at a 30-40% discount, I'd have to remark my entire portfolio. So one, the endowment, in my view, is massively overstated in terms of what it's really worth. The second thing is no one talks about the fact that Harvard now has $8 billion of debt. I read the prospectus for the recent bond issue. So you have $53 billion of overstated assets that are illiquid, and you have $7.9 billion of debt, which you owe. as a donor? Do you want to give money to a nonprofit institution, which is going to go into the institution and going to go out the door to pay money interest to bondholders? My experience is nonprofits that borrow money, it doesn't end well. And then you have, what do they rely on for current funding? Money every year from the U.S. government, money every year from donations. Donations, I don't know, I have to believe they're down meaningfully. And tax-exempt status. Another reason that induces people to give money to their university is to get a tax deduction.
Fair or unfair to try to take the tax-exempt status away?
I think it's fair. Again, the Harvard became, over time, a political advocacy organization for one party. When a university goes from being a university to affecting becoming a political advocacy organization, it doesn't deserve nonprofit status. I mean, and they have to. Harvard should be a place where students go to learn and the best research gets done. It shouldn't be a place that is allowing pro-terrorist organizations on campus, that only allows certain kinds of thinking and speech on campus. That's a political advocacy organization. It's not a university. So I don't think we're going to end up there where Harvard loses its tax-exempt status. I want Harvard to succeed. It's been very important to me over time. But really, it got itself to a very bad place. And Alan Garber is a good president, but he's not managing. The mismanagement here is Penny Pritzker. If this were any other kind of corporation, the notion that she's still chairman of Harvard, leading the charge here, and in terms of how Harvard managed everything from COVID, and I know we have to go, but it's an important topic, to endowment management, to waste, to free speech, to who they hired as president of the university. It's time for a change in leadership.
What he's saying is they did everything wrong. I'm going through, I'm like, okay, what you're saying, Bill, is that they did everything wrong. That's Bill Ackman, the billionaire investor, who's a graduate of Harvard and has been one of the leaders, from any alumni of Harvard, of being extremely, critical of the anti-Semitism. But he makes a great point. Look, he went there. He said they're no longer a college; they're a political, advocacy group is what they are for one side. And what's the one side? And I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you get rid of the blatant racism of the anti-Semitism. And I don't know how you get rid of the blatant misogyny of the radical transgender movement that Harvard both endorses. When people are racist and misogynist, do they ever change, or do they only change because the generations change? When you look at the history of racism worldwide and in the United States, it doesn't go away overnight. Anti-Semitism and the misogyny of the radical transgender movement, no different than other forms of racism and or misogyny that have been used in an attempt to gain power and control. But do those people who really believe it, do they change? I'm not saying you don't do what the president's doing. I'm just saying, how do you change Harvard? Except for time. And the constant criticism, you punish, because that's what fiscally you're punishing them. And you're debating them. Harvard's being debated every day now. The anti-Semitism and the misogyny of the radical transgender movement is being fought and debated every day, but it's on the big stage. May not be the students doing it, but it's the United States government against Harvard doing it. So the debate is happening, and you want that debate. And we must, and the administration's doing it, we must. The Trump administration is doing it, and this is really the incredible thing. It's Trump, Trump they say is, Trump is the racist. Yet the identity politics, the racism of the anti-Semitism movement, the misogyny of the radical transgender movement, Trump is leading the charge to fight against the reprehensible and evil mindset of anti-Semitism and misogyny. And yet they're calling him the guy that's a misogynist and a racist. Man, we live in interesting times, don't we? Isn't this fun? Covering the debate is fun, but really interesting what Bill Ackman had to say. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric is out because he is under the weather. Hopefully he returns for tomorrow's show. Coming up following the top of the hour, the Supreme Court next week to hear arguments on, the temporary injunctions from district court judges. And this is where the authority of lower court judges to issue broad injunctions that block a president's policies nationwide. We knew it was going to come to this. The oral arguments will start next week. We'll have a background on that and talk about it because it's absolutely necessary because, as we know, what the judges are doing, the judges aren't abiding by the law. The judges are trying to do everything they possibly can so that Trump cannot do what he has the authority to under the Constitution of the United States. And so we will get to that coming up and have some audio on that, too, of some of the discussion that's going on that one. The court will consider a technical issue with potentially momentous consequences, the authority of lower court judges to issue broad injunctions that block a president's policies nationwide. The system was not set up for that. As somebody brought up the other day, to understand it in a simple way, the district judges are supposed to be handling court cases, not doing nationwide injunctions. They're the ones that are supposed to be handling the federal court cases. And this is where it's out of control. And this has been the goal, I believe, all the time of the president, who he himself, I believe, believes that he is a victim of overzealous or rogue judges. And so we said from the very beginning, he's going to test the courts. He's going to take as much as he possibly can up to the Supreme Court, and he'll probably win the vast majority of those cases, which was his goal all along. That and more on the way. 866-90-RED-EYE.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. He is under the weather. It's you and me. All right, what's going on? A couple of other things here. Some great Trump moves yesterday. Trump ends the federal funding of gain-of-function research. Trump is ending the federal funding of gain-of-function research that wasn't happening. Right? That's what we were told. Remember Fauci said, we're not doing gain-of-function research. We've changed the definition. Trump signed an executive order Monday afternoon ending the allocation of federal funding towards a risky gain-of-function research in foreign countries like China, where the COVID-19 pandemic is believed to have been originated. Apparently, China trying to say it originated in the United States didn't gain any momentum last week. That's good. The president was joined by the National Institutes of Health Director, Jay Bhattacharya, who in 2020 co-authored the Great Barrington Declaration, opposing the widespread use of lockdowns to mitigate the pandemic. You know, I sit here whenever I think about the Great Barrington Declaration. I can still remember Eric and I talking about it. I still remember when it came out. And, I mean, the response that it got from the Democrats was just brutal. And what the Great Barrington Declaration said, and it was signed by hundreds of doctors who said, you're doing the wrong thing. What you're doing is wrong. Children should not be out of school. They did everything they could to destroy the reputation of every one of those doctors that signed that document. There was no debate whatsoever. It was, you follow this narrative that wasn't proven. You follow this narrative or we'll do everything else to destroy your career. You think about it, it's a lot like the radical transgender movement. You don't agree with the insanity of it, we'll destroy your life. You're a woman who competes against men and you complain about it, we'll do everything we can. We'll threaten you, we'll bully you, we'll do everything so you understand that you'll lose your scholarship, you lose your ability to compete in this sport, and you may lose everything. You want a career? We'll destroy it. I mean, the unbelievable threatening that came from the whole COVID thing really is incredible. And I do think it goes further than this, and I hope they pull Fauci before Congress again. What they did during COVID was just reprehensible, absolutely reprehensible. And we all went through it. You remember it. But the Great Barrington Declaration, I can still remember because it was October. I think it was the beginning of October of 2020 when they came out with it. And it was viewed as so, the mainstream media, can you believe it? And they were wrong completely on it. But that's just sort of turned into like, I don't know. Well, we didn't know. We had no idea that Biden had cognitive problems at all. We had no idea. We acted in good faith, with everything that we did from COVID. Oh, so it was backed by science? Well, not necessarily. Well, then what was it backed by? Well, the concern and the panic that we helped create. So there you go. So that's a good one. All right, the one from yesterday that I got from Trump supporters was, Gary, why does Trump want to help Hollywood? They hate him more than anybody. And we talked about it yesterday, and this was the entire thing where Trump wants to. He didn't explain it yesterday. We still got nothing out of it. What he explained yesterday on it, he still wants to go after. I'm going to make sure I get it. I'm going to make sure that I get it right here. He wrote, the movie industry in America is dying a very, very fast death. Other countries are offering all sorts of incentives to draw our filmmakers and studios away from the United States. Hollywood and many other areas within the USA are being devastated. There is a concerted effort by other nations and therefore a national security threat. It is, in addition to everything else, messaging and propaganda. Therefore, I'm authorizing the Department of Commerce and the United States Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. We want movies made in America again. When asked about it yesterday, he really didn't get into any specifics at all and couldn't define what he wanted, except to say movies that are made in other lands. Well, what does that mean? There is none of this fits any of the arguments they've made for tariffs in other areas. Number one, we have a trade surplus. With every major industrialized country in the world, we have a trade surplus in filmmaking. So that's not the problem. It's not that we have a trade deficit at all. When he talks about propaganda coming in, the propaganda is not what's coming in, it's the propaganda going out. And you're saying, what are you talking about? reading an article in National Review that brings up what we had said about Red Dawn. That's one of the examples, Red Dawn 2, that came out in 2012. And that's where originally in the script, it was the Chinese attacking Michigan. And, or Michigan was where it was set, but they were attacking the United States. They changed it to be North Korea, which everybody knew was dumb. But they knew they couldn't sell. They could not. They wanted the China market. Hollywood wanted the China market, so they changed the screenplay in order so they could sell it to China. Well, if they sold it to China and Americans were beating up and defeating the Chinese government didn't want that, and that's a huge audience that they know they could sell it to, so they made it North Korean. And the same thing with, Maverick. He had a Taiwan flag patch on Tom Cruise's jacket. They took it off so they could sell the movie in China. And China objected to it. But all of that is not because we have a trade deficit. It's all because we have such a huge trade surplus that the propaganda was put in so Chinese audiences could watch it. We mentioned that on yesterday's show. But it's not that there's Chinese or whatever foreign anti-American propaganda coming in from major movies that sell in the United States that are produced, directed, and financed by other countries. That's not happening. Nobody could tell you what movie that was. And so there's complete and total confusion within Hollywood that was not clarified at all yesterday by the president. Nobody has any idea what it's about. Is a movie that is financed, because we went through, in fact, I went through the movie that the last time I was in a movie theater, which was 2019, and the movie is Midway, which American producers, American screenplay, they couldn't find. Think about this, the Battle of Midway, World War II, that early on really changed the direction. 2020 hindsight, you look back at the Battle of Midway and go, that was it. That was the day that war changed. And so it's a huge historic moment and military moment in American military history. And so they wanted to do a movie on Midway, American producers, and that would actually show what it was like to be a dive bomber, to give a more realistic viewpoint of what kind of angle you came down on those ships, to show you the bravery of the American pilots. They couldn't find anybody to fund it in the United States. The whole movie was funded by Chinese investors. If you've ever seen it, the Midway, what's his name? Woody Harrelson was Admiral Nimitz in it. And he was great in the role. And complete Chinese financing. Now, I don't know. Let me just see where it was. I don't know where it was filmed, though. Trying to see Midway. Okay, I'll do it later on. I'll figure out later on. I don't want to be doing research when I'm on the air. I can do research when Eric's in with me because he's talking. I can do the research at that point. I don't know where Midway was filmed. A lot of it was AI that they did it in. So that might have been fully filmed in America. I don't know. But it was completely financed by the Chinese. Is that an American movie? Because all the profits went to the Chinese investors. They backed the movie. Is Mission Impossible? If Mission Impossible is over in the Middle East, but it's fully funded by American interests, does that not happen anymore? And the president didn't have any answers on it yesterday, but it completely is almost the bizarro Seinfeld opposite of what the multiple explanations are for tariffs on goods, because movies are a service, not a good. They view that more as that's part of the service industry. And so you look at it and you go, I don't know. So don't know where that's going to end up. But I had questions from Trump supporters saying, I don't understand. I got a few emails yesterday. Don't understand it. Why would he be supporting Hollywood? And they were wondering, too, what are these films that he's relating to that are foreign films that have massive propaganda, that are massive sellers, and, might be a national security concern to the United States? Nobody could figure that one out. But the main thing is, why does he want to bail out Hollywood? They're his biggest enemy. And then the reason that the movies are being done in other countries, number one, because their adventure, Mission Impossible, almost has to be filmed in another country because that's where they're doing all the covert operations, or in other countries. Then they talk about Lord of the Rings, filmed in New Zealand, Indiana Jones, Tunisia, Star Wars, same thing, Lawrence of Arabia, the Godfather films in Sicily and the Dominican Republic. You need to go to different areas in order to get the story that you're writing. But everything is backwards because this is an industry where we have a massive trade surplus with the other countries. And the problem is created with China because of the surplus, not because of a trade deficit. So it's like, what's the end goal here? Nobody can tell you, and the president can't tell you, or at least wasn't able to tell you yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised to see this sort of fade away because it just doesn't make any sense, because you don't know what they want. And if you look at why so many of these films, for example, have gone to Vancouver, union rules. It's cheaper. Hollywood in California has priced themselves out. He blamed Newsom. I don't know the specifics. I'd like to see the specifics of why Trump blamed Newsom for it yesterday, but the union rules that have been in there that make it more expensive to do a film in California, that's why they've been going to Texas. Texas is building right about 5 miles from me. They're building a huge movie studio. It's like, okay, independent films are becoming more popular. Streaming's becoming more popular. If Hollywood is losing an audience, it's because of technology and because of the Hollywood bias in films that comes from American-made movie producers. And Trump knows that. So that was the biggest question I got yesterday from Trump supporters, which was, what's the end game here? And I'm like, I don't know. But I think the most frustrating, why does he want to bail out Hollywood? That makes no sense. And the only thing I could come up with, because they're American producers. They made the choice to take a screenplay. What, you're going to have a tariff unless every movie has to be produced and shot on location in the United States? And what's the percentage? Now, the only thing is that disappointed me a little bit. I wanted to see Meathead, and I wanted to see Madonna's ex, Spicoli. I wanted to see them screaming and yelling about it, and I didn't see that yesterday. I was hoping for that. I was like, I want to see them screaming and yelling. That's what I want from all this. Have them going nuts. But no, again, there's a lot of questions as to what the president actually wishes to do here, and nobody's explaining what it is, because it's the opposite of what we want to do with goods. Why would you be putting a tariff on an industry that has surpluses with every major industrial nation? Doesn't make sense. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Once a roadside inspection is completed, the officer will close it out, which involves the officer writing or typing up the report. The more the officer found during the inspection, the longer this will take. If violations were discovered, most officers, as a courtesy, will explain the violations to the driver. If there were any out-of-service violations, the officer will normally explain what must be done to get the out-of-service order lifted. Drivers need to be very attentive during this part of the inspection. The driver also needs to read and understand the complete inspection report. After receiving the inspection report, the driver has 24 hours to get the roadside inspection report to the motor carrier. If the driver will not be returning to a company facility within the next 24 hours, the driver needs to know to get it on the way to you via email, mail, or fax within 24 hours. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara along with Eric Harley. Eric is hopefully back tomorrow. He's out sick today. Just reading this here because the headline got me interested. Pro-immigration advocates slam Trump's Department of Homeland Security offering $1,000 in free flights to self-deport. Pro-migration advocates, well, which would be pro-illegal immigration advocates, are announcing and urging illegal immigrants to reject President Donald Trump's offer of $1,000 and free airline tickets to leave the country. This option might be worse for people who take advantage of it, claimed Aaron Reichlin, a pro-illegal immigrant advocate for the Immigration Council Advocacy Group. For people in immigration court, it would likely mean a deportation order. For others, not detained for deportation. It would abandon clear options for staying. The economic payoff from subsidized remigration home could be a huge economic windfall for ordinary Americans who see better wages, more workplace investment, and cheaper housing. That's coming from Breitbart. The taxpayer savings are as much as $1 million per illegal immigrant family, given the long-term cost. But actually doing this, the cost, I thought it was 14. I've seen the figure now. $17,000 is what it would cost the American taxpayer to deport somebody, to go through the official channels. If they self-deport, it's, I think, like $4,000, something like that. $4,000, $4,500. So whatever your airplane ticket would be and $1,000 cash once you get to the destination is what they're offering you, and it just makes it easier, and we'll see how many people take advantage of it. Be interesting to see if they report it. I'd like to see 6 months from now, how many people have taken advantage of that from the government.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. One of the things that I find fascinating is, and I look the acquaintances and people that I know. My closest friends to me are conservative. But there's a number of acquaintances like we all have that are liberal. And I really can't. I mean, I look at a ton of people that I know that were Democrat, used to always comment when Obama was president. They would comment on everything. I mean, they were thrilled when Obama became president back in 2008. They were absolutely thrilled. And they would talk about it all the time. And all of a sudden, the last few years, they've been completely quiet. They don't give any opinion at all. And so I really wonder, where do people stand on these issues? Where does the average Democrat stand? And are they different from the person that might talk to the press? For example, we started this article just at the end of the show yesterday. Didn't have time to finish it up. And I thought it was really interesting. It says, from diversity and gay rights to freedom of speech and protest, anti-Trump activists in New York shared their visions of an ideal America. During interviews with Fox News Digital on Saturday, at a hands-off protest movement. What does that mean? I want diversity. You got it. There's a ton of different people here. Gay rights. What does that mean? What gay right? Oh, you're not gay rights, transgender rights. Well, what are your transgender rights? What do you mean by transgender rights? Oh, I must accept that if you're a male and you say you're a female, you're a male. Well, that's not really gay rights, is it? They throw it in as gay rights because it sounds good. We can go back a decade. It's not gay rights. To freedom of speech and protest. Who has lost the right to freedom of speech and protest? Is that gone in any way? And so you look at this and you go, what the hell do they want? Can you be specific? And here it is. So here's said one unnamed masked protester holding a sign which had the scientific symbol for resistor. Oh, my God. The scientific symbol for resistor. How bad is that? Here's what this person had to say. For me, an ideal America is one where people can protest like this. Well, you are. Do you know where you are? What I want is to be able to protest like this. Where do you think you are? You're in the United States. You're protesting like it. I mean, this is where you say, how delusional are they? It goes back to that woman last week that was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the one who's a consultant to businesses about how they handle the political up and downs, what happens. And she said, I think they're insane. And she said, I'm not saying that in a mean way or snarky way. She said, but they're completely delusional. And if you're completely delusional and you judge the world by stuff that is self-evident, not true, then what are you? If you live in an alternate reality that's not based in reality, that's insanity. That's what she said. It was great. But this person said, for me, an ideal America is one where people can protest like this and have their voices heard. Well, that's what you're doing. But freedom of speech does not mean I have to hear your voice. For me, an ideal America is one where people can protest like this and have voices heard, and they are the ones who are running the country. Oh, well, you want to run the country? Well, you got to get elected. Not somebody who's taken over the country and no longer allows the First Amendment to be spoken, said one unnamed masked protester. Now, does that deal in reality at all? Is that person based in reality? Or are they smoking the most kick-butt weed that completely makes every single brain cell the most delusional that it possibly could be? Another protester, Josh from Queens, echoed the same thing about freedom of speech, saying in an ideal America, no one is concerned about their right to free speech. Is your right to free speech any different today than it was a year ago? No. Or 10 years ago? No. It's the exact same. An ideal America looks like a country where its citizens can live in dignity, can live in peace and prosperity. Well, yeah, we are not afraid to exercise our right to free speech, our constitutional given rights, where everyone ideally is housed, is fed, makes a fair living wage. Josh continued. Okay, you have your right to free speech. That has not changed. Your constitutional rights haven't changed. Where everyone ideally is housed, is fed, and makes a fair living wage. Do you earn it, or do you mean given to you? If you earned it, yes, you should get it. If you haven't earned it, you may still get it, but it's charity. It's not required by the government. People do it because they may care for you in that particular situation. And so what? If you can't do nothing and still be fed, housed, and make a fair living wage, then you believe you have the right to protest? I guess you do have the right to protest, but nobody has to listen to you. Do you have a right to commit acts of violence? No. Let me see. We're looking through. Oh, it goes, recent events such as the case of the anti-Israel student Mahmoud Khalil continue to place the First Amendment in the spotlight. Not a citizen of the United States. Doesn't apply. Never applied. Didn't apply now. This isn't because Trump's in office that this all of a sudden applies. It applied before. Others told Fox News Digital they are prioritizing social values like diversity or LGBTQ rights. This includes May, who is a resident of Manhattan, who says that her ideal America includes diversity and peace. The hell are you talking about? You're ticking me off. There may be no peace because you're ticking me off. Diversity, which is a bad word these days. No. Diversity is just what has happened in this country. Diversity is a number of different things. We are a melting pot of people. But diversity is not what makes the nation strong. That just happens to be where people are located. It's unity. It's the melting pot and the unity that's created because of shared values. Diversity is just everybody's different. I don't even think they think this stuff out. And LGBTQ rights are T rights. Mary, a protester from Queens, added that her ideal America includes civil rights, gay rights, enough food and health care for every single person, and the right attitude towards other countries, a helping attitude. Enough food and health care for every single person. Do you have to earn any of this? Or is it just given to you by others by force? If I choose to feed you, it's one thing. If I choose to help you, it's one thing. If the government forces me to do it, for example, I think the perfect example would be college loans, right? I shouldn't have to pay my college loan. It should be forgiven. They should just write it off. It just disappears. Well, it doesn't. What you're saying is you got a college. College should be free. Well, it's not free. It's costing the people that don't go to college. There's nothing free, so stop that to begin with. You know what I want to protest against? I want to protest against delusional people who have no base in any type of reality. That's the protest I want to have. I want my free speech to say, get the hell in the real world, will you? I mean, my God. I mean, perfect example. No, I should get all the food and health care I want and do nothing? Well, yeah. Because I need to have dignity. So you don't want to do anything. You want dignity, and you want me to provide you with the minimal sustenance to exist. Or you decide, not me, you decide to take out a college loan. You made the decision. And you believe that morality dictates that I have a greater morality, the person who did not benefit from the transaction that you made, and you benefited because you got the education that you signed up for, that I am more obligated to pay for that than you are. It's always great when you live in a delusional world to only look at one side and forget there's another side. Everything should be free because there's this big government thing that exists out there that just exists, and they're all big and they're all powerful, and the money government has nothing. Government gets all their money from the people. All their money comes from the profits of people. All their money comes from people who work, earn a living, and pay taxes. All of it. Because even corporate taxes come from the people that buy the products. And those are people that work hard to help make a profit in a capitalist society. Otherwise, the whole thing crumbles. My gosh. I want to be selfish and I want to be taken care of. Otherwise, I'm going to protest because things aren't going my way. Love me, please. Please love me. Wow. Yelena, who originally is from Ukraine, has lived in the U.S. for over 3 decades, says an ideal America is an America that's going to give more rights to more people. That's pretty generic, isn't it? Like what? What's a right? You see where they're going. You see more and more saying a right is food. A right is housing. A right is public transportation. A right, it's like, I don't want to have to take care of myself. You take care of me. That's my right. I don't have to earn anything. You have to take care of me. If I have a right to be a child, I want to be a child. I don't hear you. I don't hear you. I want to be a child. That's my right. I'm going to protest. I'm a child. Pretty irritating, isn't it? Yeah. Wow. I just love it. So there you go. Wendy, a professor living in New Jersey, shared that everyone should be provided a social safety net in her version of an ideal America. My ideal America is where everyone has a social safety net and can be successful in their jobs and make more money, a living wage, and be able to take care of themselves and their family. Well, I agree that the opportunity, in a free society, that's why we live in a free society, for opportunity. So people can do the things that they wish to do, and you can get into contractual obligations with other people, and you can become successful, and you can earn money. But I don't want to have to go to work. I want a job, but you're saying I have to go to the job. I can't do that. I have to go to the job. I just want to I just want to get the job and do it where I want to do it at the hours that I want to work. I don't want to have to sacrifice for a job. Or the Starbucks yesterday. We're not going to wear a uniform. Flair brings diversity. God, that should have been in Office Space, the movie. 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric out sick today, me and you. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Why? Because our show ends in an hour, and sometimes you only get to listen maybe to an hour or two of the show. Well, if you want to catch the entire show after the show is over, you can listen to the entire show. We've recorded it. It becomes our podcast on our Red Eye Radio app.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.